I own it. I am a workaholic. You know, it used to be that people would say, you know, you work too much, you do this. To whom much is given, much is required. And so I have no issue telling people every day, no one makes me go to work. No one makes you go to work. I come to work for sport.
Hey, y'all. I'm Lalanii Wilson-Jones, a Texas mogul with businesses throughout the state of Texas. And this is the show where we're spilling the tea on the bosses that I know.
It's time for Big Texas Bossin' with Lalanii Wilson-Jones. Spilling the tea on Bossin' Up.
The pandemic was pivotal. I remember the day that Trump made the announcement we had to close everything down, that the country was shutting down. I was in my office that wasn't too far from here, and I had to make some decisions about how we were going to handle things regarding patient care, what we were going to do, and what we were going to do regarding staff. The relevance of COVID and early testing, early diagnosis. I had staff waiting for hours to get tests. You know, we're waiting anxiously to see what the results are. But again, it all goes back to early testing and confirming. I've had people who got it twice, who got it 3 times. You know, I had one employee that was out well over 60 days. Our country's laboratories were under seizure with regards to a backlog and trying to get the test results out in a timely manner. So at first we saw huge lags in time, meaning 5 to 7 days, and eventually that time shortened. But did you all ever know that there was a laboratory right here in Dallas, Texas, owned by a Black nuclear medicine doctor who has her own lab? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce Dr. Colleen Payne Nabors.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for such a warm invite. I appreciate that, and it's great to be here today.
Thank you. You. You are amazing. I don't know where we need to start with your amazingness, but just take us through a day in the life of the largest minority-owned testing lab in the country.
You know, so first I would say, giving your props as well. What an amazing personality that you are. So
thank you.
I know it's, see, she looked to the side, so it's sometimes hard to take that accolade. I understand that as well. So MCI started about 26 years ago. We started out as a full-service diagnostic center in which I am a nuclear medicine technologist by profession. That is a subspecialty of radiology. And I just had a great idea one day. I looked at all of the patients that would come up. I did a very high-end test called a myocardial perfusion scan. And I just kind of looked at all the people that would drive up, come to, I was in Oklahoma, and they would drive hundreds of miles. They'd have their extended families, they'd have their fathers, all to see me kill their loved one. And so I realized one day that it literally takes a village to have diagnostic testing done. So I came up with a really crazy idea that I would put a nuclear radiation department on wheels and go around to various hospitals in the state of Oklahoma. And I made $40,000, and somebody gave me $1 million because I had such an incredible idea, and that was 26 years ago. And so from that, we became the largest nuclear department on wheels. I had a truck built out of Chicago, and then we added MRI, CT, nuclear medicine, ultrasound, DEXA, Holter, surgical centers. So I was a full service hospital in the state of Oklahoma. And then we started to branch out. And over progression, we just learned about 2015 when the toxicology industry became pretty bad in terms of drugs and opioid use. There was a lot of issues of people not getting their testing back, sort of like what we saw in COVID. And I don't say that I can do anything better than anyone. I can just do it. And so from that, I opened a laboratory. And what I realized with the laboratory is that I could easily see tens of thousands of patients per day that all came in a test tube being shipped to me around the country. And so we started a laboratory, and we accelerated that process in 2015-16. So today, we were still based in Oklahoma. And I had a small lab here because 90% of my business came from the great state of Texas.
Yep.
And then we just kind of went from there. And so today we're the largest laboratory, SDVOSB, Hub Zone, MBE in the country.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Now, you didn't graduate from high school saying that you wanted to do this, did you? Or did you? Did you always know? And tell us a little bit about your journey. Do you come from an affluent family? Do you come from Black Power? Or did you have a struggle?
You know, that's an easy question. Did I always want to be a nuclear medicine technologist or be an entrepreneur? I think that I wrote a book. And on my journey for the book, I recognized in that season that at 15 years old, I was supervising grown women that were 40. So my destination was who I was. So I didn't come from any financial backing, and I love to tell this story. The first entrepreneur that I saw was my mom. I have 8 brothers and sisters. My mom sold Tupperware, she sold Avon, she sold Watkins, she sold everything to take care of us. And my dad was a construction worker. So my mom was a domestic. I think back then she was more or less considered a maid. And I have no issue with saying that because, that's all that she did. And she sold everything else on the side. My dad was a construction worker. So unfortunately, I never saw anyone that made $1 million. I didn't have a mentor. And now that's such a big term and it's thrown around so often that we see that. So I don't ever say, unfortunately, I didn't come from means because I am self-made. I am a serial entrepreneur as yourself.
Awesome. And I know about being a serial entrepreneur. I definitely know what being self-made is. So hats off to you. Every day is a struggle. Every day is a part of the journey. So I truly understand. Tell us how you ended up in college, because typically it would sound like with 8 kids, everyone may not get to go, or 1 or 2 may go. So tell us about the values that were instilled in you that you knew you had to become more than what you were seeing.
So the lucky part for me is that my mom pushed education. My mom and my dad pushed education. And I had a sister ahead of me that went to OU. I came from a school of about 500. I was number 16 in that school, but because of the color of my skin, the counselors didn't believe that I should go to college, but I'm number 16. And so because of that, my sister had already laid out the footprint for me to go to OU. And so because of her coming ahead, I was able to walk through the door that she opened. But in terms of anyone else allowing me to get to that college, it probably wasn't something that was going to happen. But because of that, and my mom chose to do it, which is really an interesting story. When I was in the 10th grade, back then we had these classes called vocational office education, where they taught you how to type and they taught you how to cook. And then at the end of the day, when you get out of school, because of the color of our skin, we were going to go work at a call center, or we were going to go work at some place where they had given us a vocational educational skill. But I would walk by this room, and my sister was in it, all my friends was in this class, and they was teaching you how to do typing. And it also taught us how to do shorthand, which I don't even think they do shorthand anymore, but it's like writing some kind of letters. Anyway, they had so much fun in that class. And I was always thinking, man, my destination, if I take that class, I will be working at Hertz in Oklahoma City in the call center the rest of my life. So no matter what I did, I never took that class. And so when I got out of school, I did not have a skill set. The only skill set that I had was I was smart. And so I had to go to college. I had to go somewhere because, I didn't walk out of school with anything. I didn't take any vocational education classes that would allow me to walk out of school with a skill set. So therefore, my only destination, my only path was to go to college. And because I chose not to take that class, I had to go to college.
You had to go.
Yeah.
Now, what part of Oklahoma did you grow up in?
I grew up in Oklahoma City.
Okay, in OKC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And so, how does it feel now to look back on the people who you were in school with and grew up with, et cetera, and see where they've come versus where you've come?
I don't really look back like that, Lynette.
Okay.
I don't really look back like that because One, I stay so busy, I hardly ever connect, but I am a social media person. I stalk people because I want to know. I may not talk as often, but I want to know what you're doing. I want to be able to see your life. I want to be able to connect because I stay really extremely busy. I don't go back to Oklahoma as much because my parents are deceased. I do have a lot of extended family there. But unfortunately, if you happen to come in my path, I will always stop and love on you. But in terms of actually looking back and trying to figure out what you're doing or who you're doing, I keep it moving.
Okay. And that's good advice. It certainly is. So tell us how you developed the laboratory. What was your initial thought in developing the laboratory prior to COVID?
So when we thought about this, honestly, I have done so much in medicine. I've bought equipment, I've sold equipment. I've had the largest minority lab for a long time.
Okay.
And so in 2016, I decided that I'm going to leave. Me and my husband had done everything. I'm good. And so my husband was a service-disabled veteran. And so one day we were just trying to get his hearing checked so he could get a disability check and we could walk away and live off of $2,000 a month and life would be good, right? That's all. No big expirations. Now, mind you, I do still own the largest company, but I thought my husband would be simple to get his retirement. And so we're sitting in the office trying to get his disability and increase that. And I'm reading. And I read a thing that says, if you are a SDV-OSV, a service-disabled veteran, you get to qualify for all the contracts in the country. And I thought, wait a minute, I didn't know this.
Wow.
And so I read it. It was a company called LHI, and it said if you could do all the echoes for military personnel because they had a shortage. While I was sitting in the dock, now mind you, I had already put a date in my phone for my retirement.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I only gave myself 365 days, but it was only me and my husband knew that we were counting down. And so at 365 days, we were just going to walk out. If somebody could afford to run this center, you could have it. My employees could have it. So I picked up the phone, I called my senior operations manager, and I said, can you call this company and see if we can get a contract? And my phone is still counting down. Every day, my counter still counts down. I think I'm on about 1,700 days now from that retirement date. So, and that's the truth, that I still let it count down. But I had given myself 365 days, and by the time I got back to the office, that same day we had a contract.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so what we don't know as entrepreneurs is that the government contracting space is huge. So that started our laboratory journey. And when I realized that I could reach, when I owned the diagnostic center, I was trading hours for dollars, bedtime. If I have an MRI scanner, that MRI scanner cost about $1.2 million. And every day it had to work. But the patients on the bed had 45 minutes. I could only do like 10 or 15 patients. I'm a nuclear medicine technologist, so I could only do so much bedtime. But with laboratory, the whole body comes in a test tube. And so at that moment, I don't know that I made a choice to stay. I kept my counter counting down, and it still counts down. I look at it occasionally, but so from there, we really changed the way that we did business. And I started looking at more of a global footprint for MCI versus a local footprint. And so what that gave to us is that we in the laboratory space, we will all understand COVID. You might have did a test here in Texas, but your results might have been processed in Alabama or North Carolina. So I realized that we could see people from all across the country, and I expanded from local to a global to a national footprint, and that is who we are today.
Okay, that's awesome. So does the CEO have a expiration date or a retirement date? Is that realistic?
Well, I think are you asking me that question, or are you asking you? So, I would say I own it. I own it. I am a workaholic. It used to be that people would say, you work too much, you do this. To whom much is given, much is required. And so I have no issue no issue telling people every day. No one makes me go to work. No one makes you go to work. I come to work for sport. I don't get paid. I own it.
Right.
I come to work every day for sport. So is there an expiration date? Probably. But if you come into work, and so, you used to always hear other people say, oh, I would probably, the best thing. They have a quote out there that says, like, do what you do and have fun at that. That didn't even make sense to me. I come to work every day for sport. And so, do I have an expiration date? Probably at some point. But I am a workaholic. I own it, I claim it, and that is who I am. So when people say, oh, you're a workaholic, exactly. That used to be a very bad thing for women. For us to say, oh, we're a workaholic. Can you have it all?
All right, y'all. Before we continue,
Altruist Home Care Solutions is one of the top accredited home health care agencies servicing North and East Texas. With over 25 years of caring for Texas families, Altruist's network of staff has become the preferred provider of physical and occupational therapy, wound, post-surgery, and primary care within the comfort of your home. Altruist Home Health Care works in conjunction with you, your loved ones, and your primary care physician to provide stellar care with honor and integrity. For more information on our services, visit our website, www.altruisthhc.com, or call us at 214-328-8600. Now back to the show.
I remember 15 years ago, Forbes wanted to do an article. They never did it. Yeah. But they wanted to do an article, and the whole thing was, it was like you couldn't be this successful and be someone of color and have a family and have children. And people used to always ask me, do you have anything that you take care of?
right. Well, I know for me it was the village journey. I definitely wouldn't have been able to be successful. And my village didn't look like a nanny and this or that, but I had those people who were from different walks that you wouldn't even expect, but they were taking my daughter to her classes. They were buying my groceries at the house. They were making sure we had dinner or whatever it was that I simply didn't have the time to do because of that. Now, what did it look like for you?
Oh, your journey was beautiful.
And I said it elegantly,
yes,
but there were a lot.
I am very, okay. I didn't have that journey, but,
okay.
But I ain't mad at you for having that journey. But I understand that it does take it took a village. But I remember I have one son, and I remember early on, because I worked, people would say he wouldn't have a really good life. He wouldn't do this. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't be this guy. And in 2007, I won small business person of the year for the state of Oklahoma. I was the first female African American to ever win that in the history of Oklahoma. And the one thing that I did was I was able to bring my son to the stage and say, I thank you for being who you are. And I think he might have been 13 or 14 or 10. And I said, I thank you, because everything that everybody said that I couldn't have it both with my husband, I said, I thank you. And then just recently, I was awarded an award of excellence. And so after so many awards, people get tired of showing up for you, right? I win a lot of awards, and people get tired of showing up for me, so I almost have to buy the seat to have you come. But
it was redundant for them.
Oh yeah. They so over that. But I am thankful and blessed that people show me grace, and I am humbled to always to receive those awards. But I was able to have my son come up again after almost 20 years or 15 years. He's 26, and I said to him again, man, I thank you for being such a cool kid. He's one of the smartest people that I know. He is me, so I don't try to fight myself, because I will definitely have a time. But he's a good young man, and when a parent can actually look at their child and say that is a great human being, I look at him every day and say that guy is he's just a rock star. And I didn't used to think that he was that great looking, but he's a good looking guy now. So listen, when he walks in the room, I'm like, okay, all of that working out that he's doing. So, so I'm blessed to have had that.
Right.
And when people took that from us, because, I had a village to help me, but I don't say that in front of him because he'll quickly say, you always working. I was like, but you never stayed the night with anybody. So I couldn't be working always. So, yeah.
The trade-off. That's wonderful. Now that I reflect, just thinking about my own life, bringing my kids shortly after I had them. When I started 3 weeks, I was back in the office. So I always had an office or a business. So I was able to bring them in the beginning. But then when things got complicated, of course, I couldn't have them at work with me. And so it was the babysitters, daycare, all of that. So it is a challenge. What would you say to young entrepreneurs or CEO women who struggle with the work-life balance? And sometimes, let's be honest, everybody doesn't choose to stay the career path. They'll go home to the house and do what it takes to keep that part peaceful, but you still have the inner urging to go on and do more. What would you say is inspiration to those women?
Stay the course.
Right.
Stay the course, because I think on this journey of women, we are so, we have so much. Because I used to always say, man, women do so much. And I would love to have a wife. Man, I would love to have a wife. I'm just saying, right. I am who I am. But if you think about that, I used to work with a couple women that they were beautiful. They were they did everything. They got up in the morning, they cooked breakfast, they went to the cleaners, they did all the bills. That work wife thing, to have one of me at home and be double, that would be a beautiful thing. So I say to all young women, stay the course. Because you know what? There's a lot of things that we say now. If you looked back and you looked back at that 16-year-old girl, what would you tell her? You know what? And so I'm looking back years, and the only thing that I would tell her is okay. That's all I got. Because it's all okay. And so at this point, at this journey, at this time, in this season, it's okay. Continue the path forward, because, I listened to all the stories. I listened to the things that they said about my son. I listened to that, his life wouldn't be as great because I worked all the time. So why can't women have it all? Whereas if I were a man, or if you were a man, would you have had to really worry about that nanny? No, you probably wouldn't have.
Right.
Or would you have to worry about, the clothes at the cleaners? Because it didn't matter. I was at the White House a couple of times, right? And I remember my brother, I'm at the White House. I'm in the White House. I remember my brother calling me saying, hey, what time is Thanksgiving dinner going to be? Right? So I'm like, y'all don't understand. But I am very appreciative of the fact that I have 8 brothers and sisters, and they keep me very grounded. And so I stay grounded because they don't really care what we have going on.
Right.
So I'm at the White House, but you worried about if I'm going to cook dinner, not somebody else. And so I have a lot of stories like that. And
which president was that?
That was Clinton.
Okay.
But I went on Obama too, and I got a story for that one too. But I can be like, nobody cares, because they expect the same. And women have a lot of chores that we do behind this. And it's so when you decide to start that business, you have to understand that less than 10% of us are entrepreneurs. Less than 40% of us make over $100,000. Mm-hmm. And when you start doing the numbers, less than 1.8 make over $200,000. And when you get to 400 or the millions, the numbers even get lesser. So, the average salary in this country right now is $53,000. And you know what, 20 or 30 years ago, I made $40,000. So we haven't come that far.
Right.
And I'm skilled. So, I think that as a woman, you have to just stay the course, because we give up so fast. we give up so fast. And, you know, I remember the best story that I heard years ago, and it helped me in my journey, which was, we had a really bad ice storm in Oklahoma. This storm lasted like 7 or 8 days. And it was a young business that had just started. It was a restaurant. The owner of that restaurant happened to be a female. They made a decision. 7 days, no lights, but they still had the generator. And so they didn't believe. And so entrepreneurship is always a fork in the road. It's either right or left, or you can go straight.
Right.
And so what they made a decision to give all the meat in the freezer away. And there was a fork. And what happened when they gave all the meat in the freezer away? In less than 16 hours, their electric was restored. But what happened? They were out of business. So business and entrepreneurship is always a fork. Every day you make a decision. I tell people, I kill every day. I get up, I have a lot of people that work for me, and I run as fast as the fastest. I am a tiger, I am a lion. I run as fast as the fastest gazelle. Because if I don't kill every day, we don't eat, right?
Right.
So the leader has to kill every day. And so when you, unfortunately, women, sometimes we're not designed to do that. But as a business owner, you have to make decisions that are not always really good decisions, but I bat 99. You know, I don't say that I bat 80, because see, 80 don't get you to 26 years in being in business. 99 gets you 22, 26.
Right.
So, you know, it's a lot of things on our journey that we experience and we go through. And how you come out, you know, is a perception of how you live your life as an entrepreneur. So
Absolutely. What would you say to the aspiring person who wanted to have a laboratory service or even go into diagnostic testing? What would you say to the 22-year-old in college who said, one day I'm going to be?
paperwork. Because, you know, sometimes I think anything is possible. I think you can do anything. You just have to have the mindset to do it. And sometimes we as women, you know, I used to speak a lot around the country, and you have to do things. Women want to we have a caring heart. And most of the time we're talking to women that want to start a 503, you know, a free or nonprofit. Okay, but you always have to remember, as you start those nonprofits, somebody has to buy those T-shirts. Those T-shirts are not free.
Right.
The van that you transport, you know, whatever those things are. So I think for the aspiring young woman coming up, you know, I say simple. Do one thing, make $1 million, and then do another one. But if that thing doesn't ever bring you $1 million, stay the course. And sometimes when you talk to young entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you do this, I tell people all the time, if you want me to hear you, I hear you. If you want to comment, let me know.
Right.
Because I'll help you. If you don't want the comment, just tell me that you just want me to hear you, and I'll just sit there.
Right.
So consequently, what that means is that sometimes we start so many things in our head because we do have that free spirit. But unfortunately, what is a thing that has done well for you? And it may not be money. It might be just your business. It might be just the success of that. But you have to start someplace, and you have to understand that stay the course, understand what it is that you're doing, and before you go to another venture or to have something to be non-successful, make it successful.
Absolutely.
Because that's when you get to say you're a serial entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Yeah. And lastly, tell us the future of MCI. What should we look for?
Wow. You know what? MCI is, at this point, I come to work for free. MCI really is on a magnificent journey. I don't think that we've ever seen anything like what's happening at MCI. You know, sometimes I think I can say MCI is on a $1 billion run.
Go.
And You have to be able to speak it, to say it, and we are doing that. We're the largest African American service disabled veteran hub zone, MBE, DBE, FSS scheduled in the country.
Love all that.
So because of that, you know what? I know when people were in COVID, MCI was doing the work to come out of COVID. And when we came out, we're the most accredited laboratory in the country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when, I'm speaking, we have won a lot of contracts. We have some of the largest contracts in the country. So that's my journey, to stay on that and to keep us moving forward.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. We appreciate it on Big Texas Bossin. And are there any nuggets you want to leave us with that we didn't get to drop?
Having your platform, the one last thing that I would tell everybody, Biden signed an executive order. Read Executive Order 13985. It will give you direction, it will give you clarity, and it will also give you success if you understand it. And I'm living my life by that, as a lot of minorities are at this moment. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Big Texas Bossin Podcast. If you like these conversations, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on all social media platforms at Big Texas Bossin. Tag us on social at #BTB.